Hi students, today we will learn about the computer application in business, and it is for the program Bachelor of Commerce 5th semester for Karnataka University Dharwad, and the session number is 16th. Learning objectives of this session. We will learn about data independence, DBA roles. DBA means database administrator roles, schemas versus instances, relations in database management system. Outcomes, that is database administrators roles. What are the functionalities of the database administrators are there, that we are going to learn in this session. Along with that, schemas and instances and differentiating in between them, and different types of relationship that exist in between the tables while establishing the relationships. Clear? Okay. First, schemas versus instances. So database schema. The description of database includes the descriptions of the database structure and the constraints that should hold on the database is called as database schema. So while designing the database, we should be able to write the tables. As you know that the data will be stored in the form of a tables. A table will contain the rows and columns. So representing the data in the form of tables, and that table in turn contains the rows and tables, and representing that is called as a database schema. Schema diagram. Schema diagram is nothing but a diagrammatic representation of database. Diagrammatic representation of database is called as a schema diagram. Database instance. The actual data stored in the database at that particular moment of time is called as database instance or occurrence. For example, there is a 10 number of students record will be stored in the student database, and after 1 hour now it has been raised to 25. Then the data instance at first hour will be 10 and the data instance at the current time will be 25. It will tell us the number of records which are present on that particular time, and that will describe about the database instance. Data independence. Logical data independence and physical data independence. In the logical data independence, the capacity to change the conceptual schema without having to change the external schemas and their application programs. So in the logical data dependency, we can modify the logical data at the design level without we need to modify about the application programs. That is the independence that we are having with respect to logical. Similarly, in the physical data independence, the capacity to change the internal schema without having to affect the conceptual schema. These both are independent in nature. So if any one of them is going to be modified, there is no need to modify the another one. So that is why both are independent in nature. Roles of DBA. The DBA means a database administrator. It is one of the user which we come across under the database management system. The roles of DBA are the software installation and maintenance, data extraction, transformation and loading, specialized data handling, database backup and recovery, security, authentication, capacity planning, performance monitoring, database tuning and troubleshooting. These are the features or the activities or functionalities which is being done by the database administrators in the database management system. Next, table. So as you know that the data in the database management system is stored in the form of tables. So basically the type of conceptual data that we are going to use is a relational model. Relational model, we are going to store the data in the form of tables. That table will be divided into rows and columns. So you can see in this diagram that the student register number, student name, student course. S course means student course. S address means student address. S age means student age. So these are all labeled as attributes. Attributes represents the properties of a particular table. And student register number 1, 2, 3, Mahesh, BCom, HKR and 20, and that represents the tupules. 3, 4, 5, Suresh, BCom, HKR 20, that represents another tupules. So what is the number of tupules present in the table is 2. Now it is called as the data instance. Got it? So one need to remember that the data needs to be stored in the form of row wise. Okay, but it can be manipulated column wise as well as row wise. Manipulation means update and manipulate or delete. We can do it wherever we want. But while the data should be entered in the form of tupules. Relationships. One of the greatest benefits of working with the database is the ability to store the huge quantities of information, and one company's database may contain many tables of related information. When the information between the tables are linked, then it is called as a relationships. So we have to maintain or interlink these several tables which are available under the database management system for efficient retrieval of information for the users. Relationships. Table relationship increase the power of the database by allowing the data to be stored separately but managed and retrieved collectively. Relationship example. Relationship example. What are the advantages of the system? Are there disadvantages? Keys to the relationship. Okay. So while establishing the relationships and the tables, in between the tables, we come across several keys to the relationship. And one such of a key is called as a primary key. A primary key is a key which is used to identify the tuples uniquely. That is to say that in a table, you can see in this diagram, there is an employee table is there. In the employee table, we are having three attributes: employee ID, last name, and the first name. So we need to identify the tuples uniquely. To identify the tuples uniquely, we need to have one particular attribute. It should not be repeated. It should be unique among all the attributes, and that attribute is called as a primary key. Clear? Here the employee ID will be acting as a primary key because the value for the one employee should not be repeated for another's. Okay, that's it. Primary key and foreign key. When the tables relate, the primary key of one table becomes a foreign key for the another table. The primary key, the key which is going to act as a primary key in one table, then the same key which might be going to act as a foreign key in the another table. So such type of keys are called as foreign keys. The foreign keys are used to represent or collect or retrieve or update the data by using the foreign keys. When the tables are linked by using the primary keys, the related field in the second table is known as the foreign key. So you can see this here. In the employee table, we are having three attributes: employee ID, last name, first name. In the orders table, we are having three attributes: order ID, customer ID, and employee ID. Order ID, customer ID, and employee ID. Employee ID is repeated here. Now this employee ID is repeated in the orders table. The employee table, it is going to act as the primary key, whereas in the orders table, the employee ID is going to act as the foreign key. Referential integrity. Referential integrity protects the related data that is stored in the multiple tables. It could prevent a customer in a customer's table from being deleted if the customer's ID also appears in the order table. What does a relationship look like? The relationship established between the two tables. Example of the how the tables are interlinked in between the relationships. One record in the student table is related to one record in the participation table. Clear? Setting up of relationship. Add one table's primary key to a like field with the same properties to another table. In order to decide which table's primary key to use, you must first determine the nature of type of relationship. There are three types of relationship. So while establishing the relationship in between the tables, so we need to determine what type of relationship that exists in between the tables. First one is one-to-one. Only one matching record between the two tables. This relationship is the least common because it is not very efficient use of tables. one to many. The most common type of relationship, the one record in a table A links to a multiple records in table B. Many to many. Multiple records in the table A are linked to multiple records in table B. So we come across the questions slide. In this session, you might able to accept the 5-mark questions in the examinations. That is, define relationship and its need. What is the need of relationship and what is the need of it? You have to explain it briefly and list out the different relationships in database management system as we come across 1 to 1, 1 to m and m to m. Define database schema, database instance and schema diagram. And the variations in questions, you might also fetch a 10 marks question. Define relationship and its types with an example. So these are the references. If you need any further additional information, you can go to this and you can refer the additional information for this particular session. Okay, that is all about it. Session 16, and thank you.